Welcome to the Elevated Trader Podcast. I am Dr. Kristen Kidgel.
And I am Tracy Ball. Join us every week as we journey into becoming better traders.
We believe becoming better traders involves elevating our skill, mindset, and our health. In each episode, we will discuss the current book we are exploring, and we invite you to join us on this journey.
Are you ready to elevate your trading, mindset, and health to the next level? Let's do this.
Welcome to Part 2, The Complete Turtle Trader. How 23 novice investors became overnight millionaires. So we're back. Looks like we're going to jump right into Chapter 3 here, and it starts with Richard Dennis saying, how much of a role does luck play in trading? In the long run, zero. Absolutely zero. I don't think anybody winds up making money in this business because they started out lucky.
I'd agree. In fact, most people, and it's actually kind of a frustrating thing. It's like that the person that comes in here and they over leverage themselves and they hit it out of the park. And, they make tons and tons of money in the first trade and it's all accidental. Then they try it again and they lose it all. And it's a common theme among traders. Common theme.
Agree. So let's just start with a little piece of fun fact that a lot of people, when he decided to start running with this idea and doing this little piece of research, I guess it's more of a little test, his theory, so to speak. Yep. It says in 1983, the classic movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, had come out. And so a lot of people thought that he got the idea from that. And he's like, nope, I didn't. But what do you think? I mean, it seems a little fishy to me when you compare all the little parts.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we'll ever know.
I had no idea. So I was reading this.
Have you seen the movie?
Yes, I've seen the movie. Maybe twice, but it's been a long time. And I wasn't trading then, but I would totally love to see it again. And I know people still watch that.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of those trading movies. Well, the main similarity is it your smarts or is it something that can be taught?
So in this chapter, they go through basically, who these individuals were, and you see how diverse their backgrounds are. So we know right away that everybody he's brought in, I mean, he's trying to reach as many different aspects of life as he possibly can with life experience and the way with their education and the way that they view the world. So he's trying to make this as random as he possibly can. And I got to say that the part that really stood out to me, which I thought was really neat, is they had to actually answer a 63 question true or false test. And the true or false questions all appeared to be easy at first, but perhaps tricky on second thought. And they give a cross section of these true and false questions. And a lot of them are trade relating, which, you're reading through them going, okay, well, this is most likely assessing your risk capabilities or how you'll respond to risk. But then they get into some really random questions like, what's your favorite book and movie and why? Why do you like it? Or what historical figure do you like? Those types of things. I thought it was really, really unique. So I don't know if they had a psychologist come up with these questions that had the ability to assess or know, what type of personality answers which way or what way, or whether these were all them that created each question. It's interesting to know, but I thought it was unique, right? It felt very much like taking a psychology test.
Well, we know Richard Dennis was all about psychology.
Oh, absolutely.
So he could have easily made up all these questions.
Yeah.
Does that really make a difference, even though all their backgrounds were different? I guess they had to maybe, because of taking the test, did they have to have maybe one thing in common? Like, do we know that they have to be a risk taker? No, that's the one thing. They have to be able to follow rules and be a risk taker all at the same time.
Well, based on what I'm reading so far, I think the one thing that they had to have in common, and they didn't even have to have in common, is you either did it or you didn't.
Okay.
And that was follow the rules.
Follow the rules. And what do you need to follow a rule?
Discipline. But to me, discipline is that's a choice. So you just have to choose to follow the rules. So why are you following the rules? Well, why are you doing this in the first place? So if you actually applied for the job, you had to have a reason to be doing it. And if you made the commitment to go through, then why aren't you following through with it?
I remember reading a part that said he wanted them to trade like a robot.
Mm-hmm. That was in, the last chapter.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yep.
So I thought that was rather cool. And then it goes into here to say that math ability was not the sole determinant for hiring by any stretch. Dennis and Eckert knew long-term trading success did not correlate one-to-one with high IQs. They were trying to assess the applicant's ability to think in terms of odds. And that's very, 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 very prevalent even today. And the same kind of thinking needed to win in blackjack in Las Vegas. Now, I'm not too keen on the concept of relating it to gambling per se, but blackjack is probably one of the only games that I think is a game of skill versus a game of luck in the casino. And it's definitely something that you can learn to do well and put the odds in your favor. They wanted applicants with the emotional and psychological makeup to treat money abstractly so they could focus on how to use it as a tool to make tons more. I thought that stood out to me quite prevalently. Now, the other thing that I wanted to just touch on quickly is that even though, they did this test and they were assessing their psychology, and I think that would be a really cool idea to see if you have the ability to do this, or if this is something that suits you, keeping in mind that determination, your own perseverance, will force you to change, which would then it would end up changing the answers. It would change your answers, which would change your psychological outlook, just based on your sheer desire and determination to do this and be successful at it. Make sense?
Agree. It totally makes sense. One of the things that stood out to me was Dennis is, and remember, I feel like we were saying Dennis, and I don't want to be confused that we are speaking of Richard Dennis when we say Dennis. One of the things he was most interested in was for people to, I believe what I'm getting when I'm reading this is that like negate their egos. Like egos have to be removed. And again, that takes us back to, basically trading like a robot. But at the same time, your ego has something to do with your determination and your skill set and your ability to show up and then having to, I guess, categorize yourself with like, I can't let my ego get into this decision. I just have to make this decision.
But remember that all of that has to do with the emotional side of things, right? Your ego is attached to the emotion, not to the intellect. So the emotional side is going to give you that drive. That emotional side is going to give you your why. That emotional side is going to be the reason that you're doing it, the reason that you're persevering, the reason that you get up every day. That's that part of it. Then there's the decision side of it, which needs to be separated from the drive, the passion, right? You can't have that inside of it. You have to realize that that's the driving force behind it, separate it, compartmentalize it so that you can actually make the decision. Right.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing I think I'm really getting out of this is like, these are the rules. These are my rules. This is my money. The experiment is that it's not about an IQ thing. It's about teaching somebody to trade. And if that means I need to teach you, you have to follow these rules. You have to have the discipline and all of those things to be an excellent trader, then so be it. But I don't know. That's the gist that I'm getting out of this.
Oh, absolutely. And, they say this here, and this stands out. However, it's much easier to learn what you should do in trading than to actually do it.
Say it again.
It's so much easier to learn what you should do in trading than to do it. Right? And it's true. I believe that we can teach anybody on the planet how to trade. I believe that wholeheartedly. We can teach you what a candle looks like. We can teach you the technical analysis. But learning it and doing it are two very different things. And I don't know if that's the same with everything that we learn. I don't know, but I do know that there is such a psychological component attached to everything to do with trading that makes it even harder, right? Like, how hard is it for you in your job? Let's just use that as an analogy. You're a chiropractor. You've learned your skills. How hard is it to actually go ahead and implement it? Or is there a psychological challenge for you every time somebody comes in with a sprain, you go, okay, well, I know that this is what I should do. But you have this mental battle that goes on. Well, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll try something different. Does it happen to you?
My job comes with a lot of feedback. And that feedback can be in different shapes. For example, their tolerance level, their pain level, the problematic level, the history. So it's much more, it can be 10 people can walk in with wrist sprains. And I always tell people, your problems that you walk in with may have similar labels, back pain, headache, whatever, but you are like a fingerprint. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this really completely relates. And I said, but some people come in and they are a 500-piece puzzle, and some people are like a 3,000-piece puzzle. So there's a lot of internal analysis that happens, and then you have to switch it into a communication style that you want to relate to the person, so they understand what you're doing and what you're going to do and what you're seeing, because people want to leave the room knowing that they're better than the way they walked in. Mm-hmm. And I can agree with that.
Yeah. And so you've got a lot of adaptability.
Yeah. And there's in the skills in that. Yes. So yeah. I'm not sure I'm helping you with your question.
Are you ever afraid to tape somebody's wrist?
No.
Are you ever afraid to pull the trigger on that decision? Are you ever afraid to actually do what you've been taught to do and execute it?
No, because you shouldn't really do things in fear.
That's my point, right? I don't know of a lot of other careers choices that are so entrenched with that feeling, that underlying feeling. I don't know any other career that says, I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to do that.
Well, trading has it.
And yeah, it's so entrenched in that. And that's why I think that you can teach anybody, but doing it is another story. And there's just that huge psychological, I'm trying to think of any other, maybe, I mean, if you had a fear of public speaking and you took a job as a teacher, then yeah, that might be one of those things, no, I can't do it. And you're stuck behind a door and you just can't open that door to go in. But you get paralyzed with fear.
Military.
A lot of traders, military, maybe. Yep.
Especially if you had to hit that red button that's going to drop something on somebody.
Yeah. So it's tough. It's really tough to actually be faced with the things that you need to do and then have that emotion come in and paralyze you from actually executing what you've learned.
And he was really good at knowing how to cut that out and then to teach it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Very interesting. I thought that was really key. So here's the other thing, and this just compounds onto what we were just talking about. And that's many people can trade small accounts or small amounts day in and day out and not worry about losing money. Okay. But as the size of their trading is increased, say by 100%, their trading decisions become more significant and problematic. And once again, we've talked about the R system before. We trade with the R system. And what that is a controlled variable of risk. We know how to calculate it, but it separates the concept of dollars to a variable. And it makes, if you can get to a place where you're thinking in the variable instead of in the dollars, it makes those decisions much easier. So trading with, say, when I say an R, okay, and that's the amount, the maximum amount that you would lose on a trade if it went against you. That's the way that the R system works. So if you're trading every trade that you're putting on and you're only risking, say, $50, that's your R. And you get used to thinking in R's instead of dollars, then it doesn't matter whether you have a $50 R or $5 million R. Your trading should not change. It should stay the same if you're able to separate the two. But the minute you're thinking my R is $50 and I'm putting $50 on, then the minute you go to 100 or 500 or 5,000 or 50,000 or 5 million, all of a sudden the panic, the stress, that emotional attachment that you have with money now becomes the problematic part that comes in and changes the way that you're trading. Because the setup is a setup is a setup. You take the setup, and if you risk $50 and you made $100, that's a 2-to-1 ratio on it. And it shouldn't matter. The setup was the setup. It worked. And if you practiced your setup, then if you had a $5 million R, you're looking at 10 million profit on that exact same trade, why wouldn't it work? It would be exactly the same, right? Other than liquidity issues, but that's neither here nor there. But my point being is that the people that struggle with that mentality, they can trade the small amounts day in, day out, but not trade the bigger amounts. That's when stress, it's because they're thinking with dollar, they've still got that emotional attachment and they need to deal with that.
It's interesting because I remember, I'm having a memory of watching Jeremy increase his R, which I believe he does annually or every 6 months, and he would double it. Mm-hmm. And, to watch somebody now knowing what it was when I met him and what it is now, because every once in a while he talks about his R and what it is, that's a perfect example of how to just take a smaller account and grow it significantly. Mm-hmm. So I can appreciate that. And it's talked about here. They don't call it the R system. They don't call it the R, but they talk about the risk. They talk about, it was 2% of the account. And so they do dive into that and piece it down a little bit to kind of help educate the reader. But, even in this book, I was just like, this has been this whole R system, this whole risk system in your trading. It has to be there. And I think that's what a lot of new traders just don't even understand. I mean, this goes way back. Back. So I thought that was interesting. That was kind of cool to me. It was like, oh, this book's been around a hot minute. And, that was being taught then. I thought that was cool.
Question for you. Where's your R sitting? Like, I'm not asking you the value of your R. I'm asking you, do you change your R annually? How often do you change it? Do you feel comfortable with it? Or is that an area that you struggle with?
No, I feel comfortable with it. I would love to say that I get to change it annually, but as a part-time trader, it hasn't quite, no, it haven't even really crossed my mind because I don't want to put my emotions, and I'm at that place, right? I'm exactly the person that you just talked about, where if I increase my R, I may be uncomfortable. So I'm not quite there yet. I've kind of stuck. Well, my R is grown, but it's not like taking $500 and making it $1,000 like Jeremy. That just wouldn't be something I would do right now. Maybe I'm going on record for saying, can I answer that question in 6 months? I would love to double my R. That would be sweet. But I am at a really interesting point in my career of 23 years and my trading career of about 5-6 years, where I'm really trying to figure out how do I take the incomes and get them to match on a monthly basis and then have trading increase what the Cairo is. So there's this weird place where I have to get to this like seesaw where the board is level, not like this, because then I have that freedom. And what is that freedom? That's a whole nother episode, but basically that's my goal, is to create that balance. And you and I have just, what is that called? Life-changing money?
Yeah. Life-changing. Yeah, for sure.
And so you trade full time, and the part-time is a different animal for sure.
Just keep in mind, doubling your R, you need to double your account too, right? Because that's the other thing is that R, you can make it as large as you want, but if you don't have the money to actually get into the positions to risk that much, it's irrelevant.
Right.
So that's the area that I struggle with. I change mine probably 3 times a year. I'll double it. I'll double my R.
Nice.
3 times a year. But then if I take any drawings out of my account, then I need to bring it back down again because I just can't get into the positions anyway. So
there you go.
There's no point, right? So that's kind of where it's at.
It'd be like you when I grow up.
All right. Well, I think that just what wraps it up for risk management. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you for joining us today. For more information about the show, as well as our list of current reads, check us out at www.theelevatedtrader.com.
Remember to subscribe and share if you found value in today's episode. See you next week.